10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Evening. The quote of the week came from the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Britain's looking up, says Barber.
Which is about all you can do when you're in a hole. I'm talking about holes. The most spectacular one of the week was made by Ron Winters.
Ron's music brings the house down.
Mr. Winters knocked a big hole in the side of his bungalow to install a cinema organ. His wife's a bit fed up. Every time she kisses him, he rises 18 feet and plays I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside. She threatens that if he goes on like that, she'll write to the Prime Minister. I've got news for her. If he goes on like that, he'll soon be Prime Minister. Spanish holidays, well known as my favourite subject, were in the news again.
Uproar in a holiday hotel. Mice invasion upsets tourists.
It happened in Ibiza. One man said
he found a mouse in his pillow when he woke up.
Another lady complained that as she lay in bed, a mouse jumped on a chair. The management assured her that it wasn't because the mouse was frightened of her, but because there was 6 inches of water in the room at the time. Undoubtedly, the kinkiest story of the week came in only today.
Church sex films raised the roof.
Yes, believe it or not, this Swedish vicar was using the vestry to make blue films in. Well, it's all in a good cause. Already they say their titles include I Am a Curious Fellow, the 23rd Sarmakutra, Confessions of a Sadomasochist, and their masterpiece about the last day in a naughty girl's year entitled Hymn Number 365. He's even making a film about his one day off in the week, Sunday, Bloody Sunday. But the most epoch-making news of the week was caught in this breezy headline.
What ho, chaps? Eton's going to the bottom of the class.
It seems that every year, Eton's going to open its doors to 6 working-class lads from state primary schools. Generations of old Etonians must even now be turning in their mausoleums. But they won't let the plebs get at the old-school song, will they?
Jolly boated weather and a hay harvest breeze played on the feather and airy on the trees. Swing, swing together with your backs between their knees. Swing, swing together with your backs between your knees up, brown, knees up, brown, and you know you must go. Never get your penny, I saw your leg wide open. Oh, knees up, don't get me up, hey!
That was the lovely Arthur Mullard doing his imitation of Noel Coward. You might have read in the papers that the lovely Miss Sarah Miles is in the programme tonight. In fact, she'll be joining me at some future date, I'm delighted to say. My star guest tonight is the remarkable Mr. Robert Morley. But first of all, here's someone who, by any standards, is a remarkable man. When he was 6 years old, he witnessed the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Custer's last stand. Crazy Horse was his uncle, Sitting Bull, the medicine man. He rode with Buffalo Bill, he knew Annie Oakley, Jesse James, Wyatt Earp. Now, at the age of 101, he's written his memoirs. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Red Fox.
How cola, chinchillas and oak shielas. How do you do, good people of England?
Splendid. Chief, can I ask you first of all, because there's always some dispute when somebody comes on and says, I'm 101. How do you know that you're 101? Because there weren't any records in those days, were there?
I know when I was born the 11th of June, 1870, by government records at the government Indian schools, I was 7 years old in 1877. I graduated in 1889. I was 19 years old. I was in the United States Navy in 1898. I was 28.
You've convinced me.
And I came out in 1932. You see, when I was in the Navy, we had wooden ships and iron men. Now we have iron ships and wooden men.
Do you have any difficulty ever convincing people, authority, that you're 101?
No, not in the United States. They all know me.
Yeah.
For years and years and years. See, I was featured with the Buffalo Bill Show when I was 23 years old in 1893. And then I worked in 107 pictures. I started there in the pictures when I was 38 because that's about the first time they began to make 1 and 2 reelers.
Mm-hmm.
Then I worked with Richard Dix and Ernest Torrance and...
Well, we'll talk about those people that you met throughout your long life later on. But have many other members... You're a Sioux, aren't you?
I'm an Ogallala Sioux.
An Ogallala Sioux.
There's 10 divisions of us.
Uh-huh. There are many other members of your tribe. Did they have long life?
Yes, we just buried one at 120.
120.
But I have one right here, which they may show you pretty soon.
Yes,
that was 134 years old, and he died in 1926. And one day he could talk you like a man, the next day like an infant. And I didn't know which day it was, and I said, "Bring old wrinkle meat along."
You've got an extraordinary face, haven't you, that man?
Yes. Yeah, it's alligator's foot face.
How do you manage to keep fit? Because you look remarkable.
Well, I take my exercises. I do my push-ups yet. I do 10 push-ups. I do the backstroke of swimming. I do the Australian crawl, and then I ride the bicycle in bed before I get up.
That would kill me. I don't know about
Yeah.
101.
I did it for the TV, the newspapers here. I did 3 push-ups.
Do you smoke?
I smoke 18 cigars a day. That's my vitamins.
Vitamins?
Yeah.
18 cigars,
Yes,
vitamins?
sir. It's as much vitamins in that tobacco as it is the cabbage and the lettuce and broccoli, what you can eat. It comes out of the Mother Earth just the same. 85% of the T.O. doctors don't know what's wrong with you. You know what a T.O. doctor is?
No.
One looks up the right nostril, the other looks up the left, and the third one don't know which end you're going to blow first.
What about diet? What do you eat?
I eat a lot of seafood. I eat a lot of vegetables and fruit. I eat a little meat, very little meat.
Well, you don't have any teeth, do you?
Yes, but I got kicked in the mouth. That's the reason I lost them. And I got false teeth, and they hurt me like an old shoe. And back out the car window, 1924. I have better health than a lot of people that has them. They get rheumatism from the poison that goes from their gums down.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes when they come up to talk to you, I have to put a screen between me and them.
What about drink? Do you drink at all?
No,
spirits?
I don't drink no firewater. No. No.
When you look back on your long life, and particularly your childhood, do you have a very clear recollection of your early days?
Yes, I remember when I was 4 years old when my grandparents began to teach me how to track and trail. And then I remember the hot days that we had leaving the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, although I was 6 years old at that time, going to the Bighorn Basin. How rough it was riding on those travois and the hot winds and the hot dust. And we little children there, we had about 7 days of that.
What were you taught as a child, as an Indian child, Chief?
First thing I was taught, to care for those who cared for you. When you were weak, they were strong. You become weak, and they become weak, and you become strong to provide and care for the aged who cared for you. And I've always remembered that.
But what was the children's place in an Indian village? Were they treated well, or?
Oh, we never whipped our children.
Never?
You see, the white man pets his horse and whips his child. The Indian whips his horse and pets his children.
And so an Indian child was never hit at all?
My daughter-in-law is sitting out there, and she'll tell you that I never whipped my son Never put my hands on him, and he's a gentleman.
What about this stuff that you learnt, the sign language and this sort
The
of thing
sign
as a
language,
child?
now like the paint. Now, a woman said to me the other day in the hotel there, says, "Say, Indian, why haven't you painted on your face to make yourself look wild?" And I gave it a thought like this. Now, if the Indian painted his face to make himself look wild, why is there so many wild and painted face mamas out? We talk the sign language because, you see, the word Indian is artificial. Columbus gave us that. He called us Indio. There was 58 different stocks of people in North America, not counting Central and South, and we formed a universal sign language.
Yes,
Like
because
this.
there's no written language.
No, there's only one tribe of Indian that has a written language, and that was in 1821. Sequoyah wrote that for the Cherokee Indians, the alphabet, 86 symbols. Now, like this is I and that is C. There's a white man's big hat, his whiskers on a horse. See? My word, my heart for you. There is peace, that's a friend. See, when we translated our thoughts with paint, too. Now, when the woman had paint up over her hair and her hair parted, it was a half a diamond. She was married. 3 little dots here. Teardrops is water. Water runs a long ways, a river, dry land, mountains and forests. Red here is on the warpath, not painted like we do in movies.
What about the animal noises that you learnt as well? Because
Well, now, like we're going out with a band of warriors after the enemy, and I wanted them to keep their eyes open to watch for them. I give them the owl. Hoo, 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 hoo. I want them to be still, lay in the grass. I give them a dove. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Want them to go back. I give them a crow. Ah, ah. I want them to come in from the left, right. I mean, I give them the hooting crane. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. Want them to come in this from the left, the road runner. To fight. Not with your hand. That's what... When I see them using their hands in the movies, I call them Sears and Roebuck Indians.
Sears and Roebuck.
Or drugstore Indians.
Yeah. What about, still on the Indian village life, Chief? Well, when you see movies nowadays, you always see the squaw as being the sort of woman, who, the beast of burden and this kind of
The
thing.
woman was not. Now you see this here. The women governors the villages. They elect their chiefs. We had votes hundreds of years, the women did. If the woman gives birth to the child, she is wise enough to choose a leader. And the woman controlled and governed the villages. Now, the reason why she carried that burden on her back, to leave her husband's hands free, to kill game, if the enemy came, he was ready. If he had that load on his back, he could not do it. But their work was shared. See, she wanted her husband to be have strength to go on that hunting trip, to provide that food for the winter times. She wanted her husband to be strong to go out to fight the battle.
You were married, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I have 2 children living. I had 1 son died. And I have 5 grandchildren, and I have a little one a granddaughter that's really a ham. Up on the David Frost show, she jumped up on his lap. I'm pleased to meet you, sir. Said I was down in the dressing room, and they showed me where stars set. And she said, if my old granddad lives, I'll be a star.
Have you ever thought of remarrying? Because you had an
No,
offer recently.
sir. No, oh, I had an offer by, yeah. One of Virginia Graham, she said, "Chiefy boy." I said, "What do you want, Virginia?" She said, "I want you to marry me." I said, "Virginia, I'm a lone eagle." She said, "What is a lone eagle?" I said, "The eagle. My wife died 3 years ago, and the eagle and a dove only mates once, and I'm not looking for a fortune seeker." But you ought to heard one that a woman asked me the other day at Mike Douglas's show. She said, "Pardon me." She said, "How do you like the way I dress?" I said, "Madam, I don't like to express my ideas." She says, "Oh, do. You won't hurt my feeling." I said, "Well, lady, if you want to know, I'm going to tell you." She was wearing those skirts 4 inches above her knees. I said, "It's just short enough for suggestions and just long enough to cover the question."
Can I take you back now to the legendary figures of the West that you worked with and knew? What about Buffalo Bill? Because you toured with
Buffalo
him.
Bill, I was with him 15 seasons. Buffalo Bill was a good man. He was his own enemy.
Why?
Giving away his money and drinking. He never abused and mistreated the Indian. The one he killed was in a duel, and it was either he fight Yellow Hand or be disgraced. Or Yellow Hand, if he would refuse to fight Bill Cody, his lobes of his ears would have come off and he had been a renegade. And each one didn't know which one they were challenging at the time when General Crook accepted the challenge. And I don't think Cody wanted to kill Yellow Hand, and Yellow Hand didn't want to kill him. They wanted to wound each other.
So the famous Indian fighter only in fact killed one
Yeah,
Indian.
yes.
Was he a good shot, though, Chief?
Yes,
Lecoq?
he
Because-
was in the early years. But
Bruce.
Annie Oakley, she was perfect. Queen Victoria gave Annie a medal here in 1887. Well, the first time the Buffalo Bill show came here for Queen Victoria's Jubilee. I was only 17 years old then I was going to sea then.
What about Wild Bill Hickok? He's another...
Well, Wild Bill Hickok is rated in books and magazines. He was nearsighted and a good patrolman, but I was told in Deadwood, South Dakota, that one little old redhead cowboy took both guns away from him, kicked them all the way down Lincoln Avenue.
What about, I suppose that the great myth about the Indians, cowboys and Indians, had been made by Hollywood. Now, you were there in the early days when this myth was being created, weren't you?
Yes, I was there.
What about the cowboy heroes that you worked with there? I mean, what about W.S. Hart, for instance?
Well,
who was the
William S.
first-
Hart was a melodrama actor.
Was he a good cowboy?
Well, he was what we call a certain robot cowboy. He had to learn to get on and off of a horse and had to go to an elocution to learn to say, "Howdy, folks, hello."
What about your part, though, in those days? Because you were playing the Indian, weren't you, in those films, the day when the Indian was always portrayed as a bloodthirsty savage.
That's right. Well, we would laugh about it and said, "Well, does the director know what he's doing?" And he'd tell us, "All right, we go do it." I fell off the horse 2 days before Bill Duncan fired the shot 20 miles on another location.
But were, in fact, Indians bloodthirsty savages? I mean, you...
We were, if we were bloodthirsty savages, would you Europeans been over there? Would you English been over in Jamestown? Would the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth? We fed you people. We gave you corn. You never had that over here. You didn't have pumpkins over here. You didn't have squash over here. You didn't have tomatoes over here. You didn't have, look at Sir Walter Raleigh. We gave him the tobacco and he was smoking it and it's made over here throw the bucket of water on it and thought he was a fire.
What about scalping, though? Because in all these cowboy films...
Scalping. You English. What about old one Patch Hamilton? The English gentleman.
Know him
What
well.
about him up on the Mohawk River at Scotia, 54 miles west of Albany in New York at the French and Indian War, when old Red Jacket came down and Corn Planter came down, and there was a French soldier laying there, and one Patch said to him, "Here's a bottle of rum, and here's a sovereign I want you to show, and I give you more for doing this." And he took out his knife, and he cut the lock, and he cut a button off the coat, and he says, "You bring them into me, and I'll give you rum and money." The French went over and got the Hurons and the Mohawks, the Huron Indians to scalp the English, and the Iroquois and the Mohawks scalped the French. But Tecumseh was scalped for either side that paid him the most money and gave him the best rum.
Wasn't it part of the business, part of the myth when you were with Buffalo Bill? Didn't you, in your act, didn't you pretend how to scalp people?
No, we didn't scalp him. I hit Edward VII on the head with a rubber tomahawk, and the English cussed me out. Oh, they cursed me. I thought they were coming after me. I was ready to jump on my horse. Well, he come down to me and he said, "Red Fox, I want you and the Indians to put a bloody good fight on tonight. I'm riding with Bill." And there he comes, all dressed up like Buffalo Bill, and he got on the right side of the stage, and that was my side. Buffalo Bill was on the other. Joe Pinebird was riding there with me, and Standing Bear and Crow Kings was coming up behind me. And we stopped the stage, and I reached in, Edward jumped out, and I bapped on the top of the head, and the lights went out. The people thought you killed him. He got back in the stage, and the stage went on, and here come the troops. Da, 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 da. And we flew out. Yeah. And the next day, he invited us up to the palace, and he sat down and he talked to us about the conditions of the reservations, and how hunting was, and what was destroyed and everything like that. And then I seen his nephew right after that.
You liked him?
Yes, sir. He was what I'd call a real rounder.
What's that mean?
Huh? He was a happy-go-along, lucky fella, and he didn't care what he did before the public. He was out and out, up and above board.
Yeah.
I met his nephew right after that.
Yeah.
The Kaiser.
The Kaiser?
Yeah. He was Edward's nephew. Queen Victoria's mother was the Kaiser. Daughter was the Kaiser's mother.
What was he like?
Who?
The Kaiser?
Oh, we'll have him. He says, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" I said, "Ich kann Deutsch sprechen. Was willst du haben?"
Did he understand?
Yeah.
I was interested when I was reading your book, Chief, to see that you worked as a vaudeville act with one of the great legendary figures in American vaudeville, Will Rogers.
Yeah, well, Will and I were buddies, and I wrote that story, my friend Will Rogers, but Will and I had a tough time of it. We went down to South America, and we went with a circus down there. We went down and took some horses down there from New Orleans. We got down there in the circus. We joined the circus, and we got way up on the River Platte in Rosario, and the show went broke. Well, Bill and I didn't have no money, and there we come down, and we passed a place where some American lived. We knocked on the cabin door and said, "Good morning, madam. We ain't no hobos. We're from the States. Here's a cowboy and I'm an Indian. We've been up here and the show went broke and we'd like something to eat." She said, "I won't give it to for your sake. I won't give it to for my sake. I'll give it for the Lord's sake." And she came out with a big newspaper all doubled up. And old Will, as he looked like that at it, he said, "Pardon me, Mom. Whose sake did you give that to? Not for your sake, not for my sake, but for the Lord's sake." He said, "For God's sake, put something in between the bread."
Can I ask you, in the short time we've got remaining, Chief, the plight of the Indian today in America is almost a fashionable cause taken up by lots of people like Jane Fonda and film stars.
Well, we don't care for her to do anything like that because it's for publicity and it's not for the good of our people. Let us handle our own affairs. I can go down to Washington with a jar of honey in my heart and I get what I want. But if I went with vinegar in my pocket, pants pocket, they would throw me out. We don't like those people to interfere. Let us settle our difficulties ourselves.
Why aren't they more militant, though, Chief?
Well, because we think that the American public may, as we have been misrepresented so, would begin to hate us, and we want respect and honor.
Chief Red Fox, thank you. Back with us in the song spot this week, I'm delighted to say, is the gorgeous Marian Montgomery. The song's by Barry Gibb. It's called The Morning of My Life. Ladies and gentlemen, Marian Montgomery.
In the morning, when the moon is at its rest, that's a sign that I love the best. I'll be watching rainbows play on sunlight, pools of water, ice from cold night in the morning. Well, it's the morning of my life. In the daytime, you would see me as before. You will find me waiting by the ocean floor, building castles upon shifting sands in a world that no one seems to understand. In the morning, 'tis the morning of my life. 'Tis the morning of my life. In the morning of my life, the minutes take so long to drift away. Please be patient with your life. It's only morning and you still got to live your day. In the evening, I will fly to the moon, to the top right-hand corner of the ceiling of my room, and there we'll stay till the sun shines on another day. We'll swing on clotheslines, and I'll be yawning. It's the morning of my life. 'Tis the morning of my life.
My special guest tonight is one of those enviable figures who appears to sail through life on tramlines, pausing for nothing in his pursuit of what he considers to be the pleasures of the world. Once described as one of a dying breed of gentlemen actors who play themselves, a master of the art of pleasure, writer, conversationalist, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Morley. For someone dedicated to the art of pleasure, Mr. Morley, as I said, you, in fact, a very industrious fellow, aren't you? Because you're in this play in London now, How the Other Half Loves, which you've been doing for a year. You're writing, and you've also got your own radio program now.
Yes, and of course I also work under the name of Sarah Miles and Diana Dawes.
Yes.
Well, I haven't exactly got my own radio program. I have done 3 chores as host
Yes,
for the BBC thing, something called Something Else.
But you've
which is
been-
very like everything else. It's very like all the other programs of chat shows, except yours.
Of course, well, I hope you might say that, but you must have appeared on every chat show in the Western world, I would imagine. Now you're in the chair, interviewing other people. Do you prefer to interview or be interviewed?
I still continue not to let them get a word in edgeways.
That's the art of it, you think?
No, I don't think it is. I must be honest. I think the art is to listen. I've never been a good listener.
Yes.
I always talk too much. Yes. I'm not very good at my chat show, but I do enjoy it. Of course, I love meeting people, and I'm sure you do too.
Yes, indeed. Depends who they are, of course, on occasion. Yes.
Yes. Oh, they can be tricky. They can be tricky.
On your programme today, I was amused when William Davis, the editor of Punch, said that whenever you go to the Punch table, that marvellous institution where politicians and actors and people gather, that if there was a politician there when you were there, you spent your entire lunch gazing hostilely at him and not saying a word.
That's not true. It's very wicked of Mr. Davis. I eat my food, too, at the same time. He's talking of a time when Mr. Barber was the guest of honour, and I was there, and I suppose I did stare at him. I think we continue to stare at politicians now with disbelief, don't you? We
Yes.
find it difficult now. I think we're drifting away from politicians, and the politicians, of course, to be quite fair, are drifting away from us. And I think I find him strange, yes. You know, some of the things he says, even stranger, I think. But this is not only Barber. I think all the politicians now. This is one of the tragedies, isn't it, of our democracy, that the politicians are more remote from us than they were. And
Are they more remote? I would have thought that television brought them nearer to us, Mr. Morley.
Oh, well, they don't actually govern on television. They just talk on television, you know, and explain what they've done wrong and how it isn't really going to be wrong in the end. I think they are remote from us. I think this is one of the troubles today. I mean, shall we talk politics?
Well, if you like, yes.
Yes, why not? Well, I mean, you've got the common market, haven't you? This is something which has not set the country on fire. This was considered... I mean, they spent a lot of time trying to enthuse the public about the common market. I don't think you can ever enthuse the British public about the common market. They don't like foreigners to start with. And this whole programme of the common market is really dedicated on greed. There's no other... the common market does nothing for the arts or for civilization or the comforts of life. It's an idea that get Persil more widely distributed in the world. I think the public realizes this, and if they're in Persil, of course they're for it. I'm not in Persil myself. I'm an actor. I've yet to see any renaissance of the theatre in the common market countries, and therefore I regard the whole thing with the deep suspicion that I regard all foreigners. After all, none of us ever going abroad have ever been presented with a bill in which we haven't raised our eyebrows with horror and rocked ourselves in the chair. We all know that foreigners are out to get more out of us than we intend to pay. And it's not going to alter when we get into the common market. Of course it isn't. They're still going to be able to add up the sums differently from us, although we've got the decimal system now in our country. And I think most people view the whole thing with the gravest misgivings, not from the point of view of the economic world, because economics is something they don't understand, and indeed the economists are more or less evenly divided about it. But from our hearts and our instincts, we've always been on our own. We have to be on our own. There's never been a nation of such extraordinary people as we are. And we have an abiding distrust of all foreigners, and I don't think we're going to alter that or let that go now.
You just made a political speech.
No, I don't understand.
But let me... I mean, there's another point of view, and I must say that instinctively I feel it too. I feel that, that emotionally I am European, and that if we're going to have power blocks in the world, or even though that might not be the best thing, but given that that's the state of matters, then it seems to make sense that we should join in a European community, doesn't it? We can't stay by ourselves, an absurd little island, for the rest of our lives.
We always have done quite well by ourselves.
But the world's
and I don't
changed,
think
Mr.
we're
Morley.
Europeans at all. We're British, I don't think. We've always found it quite difficult to get to Europe, you know. I've never met anyone who's been to Europe who's brought back a friend. Sometimes they brought back an infection, and sometimes they brought back postcards of themselves. But have you ever found anyone who went to Spain and brought back a Spaniard? I never. except as an au pair girl. This is something quite different. I don't think we've ever regarded ourselves as Europeans. I certainly don't regard myself as a European.
But isn't the whole mood of the world today is so historically we're moving toward a sense of internationalism rather than nationalism? So therefore, wouldn't it make sense that again we join the European?
We're not doing anything of the kind. At the moment, we're engaged in digging up trenches on the roads, separating Ulster from the country of Ireland. This is what, at the moment, we're purposefully doing. We're stopping the roads, you know, mining the bridges in Ireland. Of course we're not. Of course the world is getting increasingly geared to conglomerates. But this is a very different an economic thing. I mean, of course people want to... all the big trading firms of the world are international now, and they are enabled by various manipulations of taxes to trade in countries where they can show a loss and it isn't so much of a loss, and show a profit and it isn't so much of a profit. They can move their money about in vast sums, and conglomerates are very dangerous, because if they go to a factory in Grimsby and find that they're making razor blades and they've got another factory in Holland which also makes razor blades, they can close down one or the other, and it's a question of we or the Dutch losing out. The larger things get, as a general rule, the worse they're run and the more tiresome it is for us. You and I know this. I mean, we deal with this every day. In our own little limited way, we can deal with the British tradesman, but it's always difficult. I mean, I've been waiting 3 weeks for a plumber to come and do perfectly sandy. We all have to wait for them, of course we do. If we're going to have plumbers arranged for us internationally in Belgium, we shall never get them. It's very unwise to...
Looking ahead, and you're a gambling man, Mr. Morley.
Yes, a reformed gambling man.
Reformed.
Or bankrupt gambling man. Comes to the same thing, of course.
But therefore, but even so, you wouldn't mind forecasting, I'm sure, what do you think the debate on Thursday will bring about? What do you think the voting will be? Do you think we'll vote to go in, or what?
Putting my ear very close to the ground, as is my custom, getting a certain amount of dust in it, I think they hoped for a majority of 80 to make it respectable, will accept a majority of 60 and think they've got out of it very well, and will probably get a majority of 40, which patently isn't enough. But they will go through with it, partly because they say they can't change their minds. One of the troubles with politicians is this horror of changing their minds. It gets us into nearly all the troubles in which they do get us into. There's no reason why a man shouldn't change his mind. I'm always changing my mind, and I'm perfectly certain the public is too. When Wilson changes his mind, it's considered a terrible thing to have done. Why is it a terrible thing? I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night with a marvellous idea for a play. I'm sure you do too. It seems marvellous. I get up in the morning and start writing it. 2 days later, I say, oh, I don't want to finish that rubbish. I've changed my mind about the product. There's no reason why I shouldn't do this. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable to change your mind. Wilson decided at one time he wanted to go into the common market. Now he's decided not to. Whether he's right or wrong, I don't know, but I do admire a man who changes his mind. It seems to be something that the Times and the other papers don't think you should do.
But it's not right.
You and I change our minds, change our wives, change our lovers, change our shops, all our lives. We're changing. Why the hell shouldn't Wilson change his mind?
Let's take a case in point. I mean, it's wrong of a politician to change his mind if he's got votes from the public on one issue and changed his mind over it, because he is therefore denying the rights of the voters who've said, yes, we will vote for you on that. And then if he goes along and changes it, then surely that's a denial of the whole system of democracy.
Ah, well, no, this is a very difficult question, whether the politicians ever carry out their promises. And very often they don't, of course, because they're quite unable to do so. I don't think they're wicked men. I think they're feeble men very often. The whole thing about the present government is they want to... The idea of the common market is really fundamentally a cruel and greedy idea. But they're not cruel and greedy men. They just think it would be smart to be cruel and greedy. But, of course, they don't carry it through very successfully, because it's difficult to be cruel and greedy, really, in this day and age. But the conception of the weakest going to the wall, the conception of everybody working their guts out for no very good reason at jobs they don't like, is not one that appeals to me. Or you look at us, we sit here idly in armchairs, as comfortable as we expect to be at the BBC, talking. We're perfectly happy to continue this endlessly. It's not work for us, but we get paid for it. But it's very different if you're standing at a bench doing a thing and then told you've got to make 8 more this hour because it's better for production. I hate all this production talk. I come up on the M4 every day of my life, a dangerous dicing with death, which I do because the public demands it at my lyric theatre. But when I see the fury of the motorists, when I see it's a war, every day it's a war, and they kill each other as they do in war anonymously. They don't know who they've killed. And the only time they get really, I mean, they behave atrociously, and then there's an accident, and you see them waiting for the bodies to be lifted into the ambulance. But this doesn't worry them, because the body doesn't get in their way. What they're waiting for is the car to be taken away so that they can get on with the war.
I read an article once where, in Punch, I think it was, where you said that if you were Home Secretary, there'd be certain things you'd do with a motor car. Like,
Really?
yes, you said.
Luckily, I don't remember what I've written.
Ah, you do.
And hardly understand what I say.
You said, in fact, if I can refresh your memory, that if you were Home Secretary, what you'd do is you'd go to every car that was unoccupied, that is to say, didn't have the driver in the seat, and you would tow it down to Tilbury, and you would put it on board a ship and send it to America and give it away free to the natives.
Africa.
Africa, was it?
Yes, the American natives are not really there anymore. Yes, the Africans. I think this would be a solution. Like I would have a solution of not allowing anyone to fly over Great Britain. I think this would be a marvellous thing to do and very good for the ferry boats. You should allow the airplanes to get as far as France, but we shouldn't really allow them to fly over here. It's too small a country to fly over, and it's far too small a country to drive about in.
Yes.
And we don't really need to go about every day like we do.
Yes. Can I talk to you a little bit about this writing of yours? Because you are best known of all. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know. I was thinking how much better you are at changing the conversation than I am in my...
I'm interested in the writing side of you, because everybody knows you as Robert Morley, the actor, and I'm sure not the same number of people are aware that you write quite a lot in journalism and travel and this sort of thing. You write for Playboy a lot, and this strikes me rather curious, because you're not my idea of the kind of guy who get associated with that organisation. I mean, somehow you and a bunny seem incompatible. I want to be rude.
No, it isn't true that I'm incompatible at all with bunnies, but it's also true that Playboy has quite a distinguished list. I hasten to say I'm not by any means the most distinguished, or indeed one of the distinguished writers, but they have anybody like even V.S. Pritchard turns up on Playboy, yes. And they had Hemingway used to write for them. The secret of Playboy is that they pay a great deal more than any other magazine in the world, and therefore we all sharpen our pencils and write off to the editor and say, can we write for Playboy? I don't know anybody reads Playboy. I think they use the pictures, of course, a lot, but whether they read us or not, I don't know. But I love Playboy because they're one of the few magazines who, this is a funny thing to say perhaps, but when you write for Playboy, it's edited. You see, although I love writing for English papers, I don't think anybody reads what I say. I mean, I don't know that they read it when it's printed, but they certainly don't read it before. Now, the man who edits Playboy reads every word his correspondent says and writes them back quite sharply and says, do this again. And you feel in a way you're back at school learning how to write, because yes. He's an extremely able chap. Yes. And it's lovely for a writer to be told, that wasn't good enough, do it again. And you say, oh, the man's mad, and then you sit down and try and do it better.
I would have thought you hated this kind of interference. I mean, you've never ever swallowed it before, have you, in the theatre, or even when you were a schoolboy yourself? I mean, you rebelled against it.
No, I don't rebel against it. I don't rebel against people trying to improve my writing style, because there's one thing I really want to do in my life is to write well. And I'm extravagantly fond of writing, and I simply love writing, and I love reading what I've written and aloud to people, which of course is death for them. But I love writing. I think writing is a great art. I don't think that acting is a great art, no. and this is why I draw the distinction. I don't want to be too much bothered about acting. You see, actors go on, and we shouldn't talk about acting on this program really, but actors go on fussing about themselves. Now, I was brought up in a generation that believed that what really mattered was the public, that the drama on the other side of the footlights was taking place, that there were people in your audience every night who'd just come straight from a murder, straight from all sorts of difficulties and problems and bankruptcies and divorces, and they were the people to be entertained, and that what you did on the stage wasn't really dramatic at all. The real drama was in the people you entertained, and I was taught this when I was young, that my job was to entertain the public, and that they came first. And therefore, when I find actors wildly overextending themselves in parts and talking about the art of acting, which is, to my mind, although I'm only one of an opinion, it isn't by any means the right opinion I expect, I don't find acting has ever been very difficult, and I don't think it improves with people trying to do it better much. A man either acts well or doesn't, I think, practically at very early age.
Yes.
And like a dog, you know, some dogs can act and some dogs, of course, never learn. And it's their great tragedy. But to me, public, to be entertained, to have a public there every night and to get them to listen to what you're doing, to stop them coughing, to hurry them up when you want the next house in, to see when they're getting too hot or too cold, this to me is the fun of acting and not the actual... When I started, I modeled my life perhaps, you know, on the great stars of those days, who all of them admitted that they could do the laundry list at the same time as the soliloquy from Hamlet. And I have always split my mind in two so that I'm aware of the fat man fondling the girl in the box and wondering if I can stop him by engaging his interest. Of course, I never do, naturally. Why should I? But I mean, you know, this is the thing that I find fascinating in acting.
Yes.
But I don't think the rest of acting, all this boring thing about people saying they can't act a part more than a month and a half, and that now they want to do something else and move on to other fields, which I think you get an awful lot of, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Is boring and quite untrue. We all do it for one fact. We do it for the money, for nothing else, and if we weren't paid, we wouldn't do it tomorrow.
I would doubt that, because...
It's perfectly true. Of course it's true. You tried. Well, you can't.
Well, did this go for film acting as well, does it, Mr. Morley? Or even more for film acting, it's easily difficult?
No, I don't think more, but I think we do it for the money, and it isn't as difficult to act for the films as it is for the stage. It's true to say that stage actors of my generation are rather patronizing about acting for the cinema and have never really learnt the job. This is true, but this is the slothfulness and laziness and nothing to do.
Can I take you back? You mentioned earlier that at an early age, probably you can act or you can't. Can I, talking about early ages, and your early age particularly, can I ask you for your comments on the bit we had at the head of this programme about Eton opening up its doors to these 6 kids from state primary schools? Do you think this is a good idea?
Not for the ones they opened up the doors to.
No?
I hope they won't avail themselves of the privilege of an Etonian education. But I don't think you want to get me on public schools, because I loathe public schools. I think nothing splits this country more completely or constantly or continuously as private education. I would abolish it. I would take away from the parents the right to educate their children privately, and I would cut it all out and educate them all at comprehensive schools. And I think you'd have what we haven't got at this moment, a great step towards one nation.
But how did you go about educating your own children? I would agree with you there, absolutely, given the proviso, and the important proviso, that the money was made available to build the schools properly. I mean, I think that what's wrong with comprehensive education in certain areas is that you have this piecemeal thing, a jumble. I mean, you have a theory, but no bricks to build it on. And I think that's where it can go wrong. But I mean, in general principle, I agree with you.
But if you get the middle class, and particularly the noisy middle class such as myself, and say to them, you mustn't opt out of this scheme, we would be the ones marching round and getting the schools right, because our children would be going there. You asked me where I sent my children.
Yes.
I sent my children to private education.
Well, then...
Just the same as I'm a socialist, but I don't give to the party. I think that the party should come and take what it wants from me, and I also believe that it should say to me, stop this rubbish, send your child to the school up the road, and if it isn't right, let me know and get it right, and work away with the other parents until it is right. But as long as we can opt out of the school, of public education in this country, as long as we're allowed to do so, it was all like the health service, wasn't it? They pulled that off. And if they have any courage next time they get in the Labour Party, this will be their first priority. And it's a very important priority, because there is nothing worse than a feeling that one child, a man feels his child hasn't got the chance another child has.
But why feeling this? Did you therefore send your children to private school? Why?
Because I'm not a moral man. I'm a man who lives soft and cushy, and I want my children to live soft and cushy. I don't practice what I preach, and I don't know many people who do. But I wouldn't. If somebody said to me, people have to be compelled to do certain things, just as we ought to be compelled to get rid of the slums. And it would be a very good thing if a great many influential people and rich people were enlisted in the sort of army of England today and told that Shelter or some such organization was going to call them out 100 a day, and that when they were called out, they were not going to stop paying their taxes. They were going to do civil disobedience. They were going to, until one particular facet of England was put right, like the slums. You would soon find the prisons filling up with people like myself, and the prisons are filled up already. People would do it. People will do something for a cause. There's no reason why the slums shouldn't be dealt with. There is absolutely no reason. Other countries have solved the problem of slums. We don't do it because we don't care enough. And until we care, and until people like me are made to care and are asked if they're going to stand up and be counted until it's done, it won't be done in this country. But I believe that it will be done, because I think this is going to come. I believe civil disobedience is being now explored as a weapon. I don't know what success it's had in Ireland.
But not surely by the middle classes.
I think the middle classes will have to prove themselves. Yes, I do. I think people like actors. I mean, if you said to actors, well, all right, well, now you're going to be called out. You're not to pay any more taxes. You're not to pay your rates. You're to be thoroughly bolshy, and you're not to pay your theatre. And then you take people who run airlines and say, you're not to fly a plane today. We're taking him out of circulation and him out of circulation and making them into small-time criminals against the executive. Then I think you would get enough people, and the government would say, they want it done, we'll do it. Because they could do it if they wanted to do it. Of course we could do things in this country. We could make this a marvelous, bloody country in 20 years, and not by going into Europe and letting the computers rule our lives. We could do it by heart and not by head. And it's because we are a nation of heart that we don't want to go into the common market. How I get back to the points, don't I?
My word, yes, yes. Yes, you get back there, by God, in spite of me, don't you?
No, because of you, mate.
Listen, of all you've spent a fair amount of time panning our country and its executive, and perhaps quite rightly.
No, I haven't panned our country. I believe in our country. There's nowhere in the world I'd rather live. I don't care for the executive.
All right. But what about other countries? You've travelled extensively. What are the ones that have most moved you to admiration that you've been in recently?
Well, if I say Russia, I wasn't there very long. But the secret of the happiness of most of the Russians is because there's no great disparity in income. You can earn £50 a week, but most people earn £30 a week. I don't think you can earn much more. You see, if you can level up income, you take away a great deal of the anxiety of the people, and there's enough money for everybody to have the necessities of life.
But you can't justify the Russian system, can you? The communist
I don't know what you mean by I don't have to justify the Russian system.
Well,
they've taken an enormous country and leapt forward in 100 years from serfdom and illiteracy, disease, until their child care is... When I was in Russia, I met an American surgeon the first day I was there. I said, what's it like here? He said, their child care is light years ahead of us. Well, it wasn't a bad thing for an American surgeon to say to me. It's true.
And they're way back in the 3rd century in regard to democracy. I mean, how you...
They don't agree with democracy.
Well, I mean...
But democracy isn't the only government in the world.
Well, but things like free speech, freedom of expression are terribly important, and they're denied that. I mean, you're here now saying this thing on television just because of that. You couldn't do that in Russia, could you?
Yes, you can. People do it all the time in Russia.
Locked up.
This is always what they say. You get locked up in Russia. The Russians grumble just as much as we do about just as many things.
The Russians have
I haven't said anything tonight that anyone can take exception to. Unless you were a crazy politician, frightened of your own shadow. But you asked me what countries impress me. I think any country which has Japan impresses me, because Japan are very good employers of labor. They're very kindly people. They take on a responsibility when they take on a workman. And in Japan, no British Englishman is allowed to handle the task of hiring and firing people, because we have a reputation, like the Americans, of being cruel, of saying to people, all right, we'll take you on, now it doesn't suit us to keep you any longer, you can go. This is something that in my own profession, of course, we've worn for many years, and we don't have any particular beef against it. But in Japan, if they take on a child or a school student or a university student of 18, he's still with the firm if he wants to be when he's 60. They never get rid of them. They find them jobs. They look after them. When they marry, the head of the firm gives them away or gives the girl away. They have a wonderful feeling of responsibility to the people who work for them. They live as a team in Japan. And in Russia, too, I think that you'd find that you'd be very happy. It isn't true that everyone is going to follow you down the road, writing down what you say and putting you into prison camps. This doesn't exist anymore. It did exist.
I find it very difficult to swallow this conception of a paternal executive in Russia. I really do. Can I put one other point to you as well, that Playboy's banned there?
And in my opinion, rightly, except it gives them ideas.
Beyond their station, yes. What about, I mentioned earlier on that you're an extraordinarily industrious person. Do you ever think of retiring, Mr. Morley, at all?
I'm not an industrious person.
Oh, my word,
dear boy, of course I don't. I loathe people who work too hard. There's nothing more boring. I don't like people who work hard either much. No. Retiring. Yeah. Well, it's difficult to retire when you enjoy what you do, isn't it? I suppose I ought to retire. Of course I ought to retire, and then people ought to retire much earlier than they do and make way for other people. But No, I don't think I want to retire at the moment, and luckily I can't afford to, because all actors, as you know, are always in grave tax problems. I know they always beef about it. This is because actors get a lot of money given them, and nobody asks for the tax for 2 or 3 years. And of course, if they ran the rest of the taxation system like they do the actors' taxation system, this country would be bankrupt in a week, so naturally they don't. Everybody else gets deducted at source, but not the actors. But of course, the actors are always advised by good accountants who frighten the life out of them every so often, and so they don't dare stop doing what they do.
What about, I read an article, though, by you in the Sunday
You are
Times.
splendid. Of course, I know perfectly well you read all these this morning at breakneck speed. I don't really see you taking... there's a Morley article in this. You know perfectly well you read a file, didn't you? Now confess. You haven't taken... Well,
You old
it's
crow.
very nice of you to do it and bother anyway. A lot of people don't. They say, do you write? Oh, yes. It's very dear of you.
This article, actually, see, I happen to work for two periodicals that you work for. I work for the Sunday Times, and I work for Punch also, so therefore I do read it. And
Yes.
I didn't read the little potted version of it. Anyway, I was saying, what was I saying? Oh, yes, the Sunday Times article, where you mentioned a visit you paid to a dear friend of yours, Wilfred Hyde-White.
Yes.
It was sort of blooming like a desert flower in Las Vegas somewhere.
No, well, not actually in
Palm
Las
Springs.
Vegas. Palm Springs,
Palm
yes,
Springs.
yes.
When you visited him, wasn't there anything that was appealing in that kind of lifestyle to you, to sit there and contemplate the desert?
Well, he's promptly came back again. He's working as hard as ever now, the dear thing. Very successfully in a tour of the Jockey Club Stakes. He's going round the... So I don't know why. I think he was seeing me so well dressed that made him put on his overcoat and come paddling over here and thought, well, if Robert Morley can still make money here, I suppose I can. I think that's why he came back. So it isn't true. No, of course I don't want to retire to Palm Springs. Good heavens, I'd almost sooner retire to Cheltenham, and I certainly don't want to do that. No, but Palm Springs is a desert. It's terribly hot in the summer and not very nice in the winter. And no, it's a desert is always a desert. However many swimming baths you put outside or inside or
Yes,
wherever you do in
plastic
the
golf
sand.
courses.
Yes, plastic golf courses and plastic Americans too.
I take it they're not high on your list of favourite people.
I love Americans, yes, I do, and I think we should all be very careful because everything that happens in America happens here 20 years later, and all their problems come to roost here, so it's not much good us laughing at Vietnam, and it's not much good us laughing at their prison riots, because sure as eggs is eggs, they all arrive here in time. Everything happens first in America, so it makes it rather uncomfortable, because you read about it first there, and then experience it in your own country. And it gives you an air of ineffable superiority until it hits you. Then we're in trouble, boys. But trouble is my natural state, and it's the human race's natural predicament, and it's very good for us all. It would be terrible if things went smoothly.
Like a bad review in the theatre?
What?
Like a bad review in the theatre?
Yes, or my own program this morning and on the, on the radio. It's great to have failures. You should cherish them because they're, well, they do come quite often, but you should cherish them nevertheless. You know, failures are splendid things.
Yes.
Success is, well, they only annoy your friends, but failure give your friends real pleasure.
Robert Morley, thank you very much. You've given me and the audience tonight, I'm sure, very great pleasure indeed.
Thank
you very much indeed.
So
Thank you. That's it. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.